Canadian banks seeking to leave Antigua, and in sport, the West Indies team said to be gelling well ahead of the World Cup. I'm Dawn Paris and this is Caribbean in 10 for Tuesday, May 28th, 2019. We'll be back with the details after the break. Antigua and Barbuda government has announced that all Canadian banks operating in the Twin Island nation have indicated they want to leave. Speaking on his private radio station, Prime Minister Gaston Brown did not name the Canadian banks that want to close their doors, but apart from Scotiabank, which has already signaled its intention to end its operations, the other Canadian banks operating in Antigua are the Royal Bank of Canada and the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce.
I mean, the Canadian banks have indicated their desire to leave, all of them. And I would expect that as they leave, that they will give local entities the first right of refusal. Mm-hmm. And again, we make no apologies about that. That is not, that policy is not anti-capitalist. It is not anti-investment. It is just about protecting and growing the domestic economy. Our domestic banks are so small that, generally speaking, they are not quite bankable for corresponding banking services.
The Prime Minister told radio listeners that the departure of foreign banks from Antigua and Barbuda provides an opportunity for local banks to expand.
The only how that our banks are going to get to the stage where they're large enough is through inorganic growth, through acquisitions. So whereas the Canadian banks have signaled their intention to leave, it is quite an opportunity for the local banks to build capacity and to grow rapidly so that they can become more resilient, not only to acquire corresponding banking for those who do not have, like in the case of CUB, but even to maintain existing corresponding banking relations.
Jamaica's National Security Minister, Dr. Horace Chang, says a military-type operation is needed to deal with the criminal activities in sections of Clarendon, a parish in the south of the island. He says the activities in the area have surpassed the capabilities of a Zone of Special Operations, ZOSO. Member of Parliament for Clarendon Central, Mike Henry, had yesterday renewed his call for either a ZOSO or state of public emergency in crime-plagued communities in Clarendon after 2 police officers were shot and injured during a confrontation with armed bandits in the parish on a Sunday. But the National Security Minister says much more is required to deal with the gangs behind the crime.
ZOSO is a community-based operation. This is a criminal gang heavily armed, which requires a response that is much different from a ZOSO. You have to chase them down, hunt them down, find them, and hopefully apprehend them. But if they respond, then the police will prepare to do what they have to do. This is not a ZOSO operation. This is a military operation. And I think the country needs to appreciate the severity of what the police face up with. They are armed with assault rifles, and it appears that certainly M16 that they were using as one of these what they call bump stock magazine, which carries 100 rounds. That's not the kind of thing that a ZOSO deals with. This requires armed response, but guided by intelligence and investigation that can make sure we find the right criminals.
The managing director of a St. Vincent-based airline says Caribbean governments must stop looking at regional carriers as tax cows to be converted into beef when they stop lactating. Paul Gravel of SVG Air says if regional governments do not change their taxation policy on air travel, Any airline that replaces the financially troubled regional carrier Liat is also doomed to fail. He said that in the last 10 years, Caribbean governments have been struggling to pay for massive capital projects that they have undertaken and found themselves with shortfalls, and then they see aviation as milk cows. Speaking on the Early in the Morning program hosted by journalist Jerry George, the airline executive said his company is now considering its options amidst the challenges that the region's aviation tax policy is having on the airline. He said SVG Air has appealed to governments to adjust the taxes imposed on the industry, but to no avail. Stay with us, your Midday Sport is next.
Welcome to this year's 50th Caribbean Broadcast Union Assembly on the island of San Andres. San Andres is a small archipelago located in between Jamaica and Panama in the Western Caribbean Sea. A lush, exotic island rich in culture, history, gastronomy, and breathtaking scenic views. Known for its beaches and 7-colored crystalline waters, the island of San Andres will be proudly hosting this year's event. CBU members will enjoy top-of-the-line accommodations for an unforgettable experience in San Andres, connecting Caribbean nations through this year's 50th edition of the CBU Assembly.
Sports now. Fast bowler Sheldon Cottrell says there is a definite buzz in the West Indies camp as the Caribbean side gears up for their final official warm-up match against New Zealand today. The contest has taken on added meaning for the Windies after persistent rain allowed only 76 deliveries in their first warm-up on Sunday against South Africa, as it will be the final audition before they face Pakistan in their first game of the ICC World Cup on Friday in Nottingham. Cottrell was pleased to see the team gelling together ahead of their World Cup opener on Friday.
My preparation personally have been going well. It's a gradual build-up for me up to the World Cup. I mean, I'm looking forward to the first game. I'm having sleepless nights already, but that's just anxiety from my side. But I'm ready. The team preparation. Wow, the chemistry in the team is something that I've never seen before. I mean, the fellas are bouncing around. Everyone is happy. I mean, everyone talking to everyone. I mean, it's really good.
The Jamaican says he's hopeful of improving his form ahead of the World Cup.
About 90% happy to tell you. I'm very much hard on myself when it come on to my bowling. I mean, there is always room for improvement. So, and I mark myself hard. So I'm about 90%. Hoping that I can get to 100.
To some horse racing now. Jamaican Dane Nelson remained on top of the jockeys' standings at Century Downs following a weekend which saw him post a double on Saturday's 7-race card. The experienced reinsman rode winners in race 1 over 6 furlongs with favourite Zucchini, and in race 7 also over 6 furlongs with another odds-on bet Exactly. Nelson won just once on Sunday's 7-race card when he piloted favourite Dust Roller to a 3 1/4 length victory over the 3-year-old's Golding 7 furlongs. Barbadian Ray Williams, meanwhile, made his presence felt with a double on the card. He won a 5 1/2 furlong sprint in race 3 with 3-1 choice Bionic Bird, making all the running before staving off a late drive from Cottage, ridden by Nelson, to reach the wire by a head. His second win came a 6 furlong trip in race 6 when he made all the running with 2-1 bet Oatmeal to dismiss the 3-year-old maiden fillies by 7 lengths. And that's Caribbean in 10. Join us again this evening at 6:30 for Caribbean Newsline. Good afternoon.